Well, hey guys, welcome back to the Sozo podcast where we are telling the rest of the story. Today, I'm super excited. We have brought in the one and only Amanda Campbell, who works with Sozo, and currently she is the marketing director for Sozo Children. I love having Amanda here because I feel like it's people, what people do. Oh, they work for this place. They do this. This is their title. But rarely do we know the rest of the story of how they got there. And Amanda in particular for Sozo Children has an incredible story that has kind of woven into Sozo Children. And we're going to hear that story today. But for now, she is a married woman to Neil Campbell, and she has two beautiful girls, a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old, Camille and Esther. No, sorry.
6 months.
That. She has a 2-year-old and a 6-month-old, Camille and Esther. So welcome to the Sozo podcast. I know you are no stranger, but welcome, Amanda.
Thank you, Haley.
Yes.
Happy to be here.
So we have been talking about the years of when Sozo started back in the beginning, and we're kind of in between 2013, 2015, which falls into when you, Amanda, first came across Sozo. So like I said, she's our marketing director now. She really does know the heart of Sozo. But can you tell us maybe what was going on, what season of life you were in right before you got introduced to Sozo?
Sure can. It
brings back
a lot of memories. No, so back in 2013 is when, or actually 2012 is when I moved back to Birmingham from Raleigh, North Carolina. I was in a relationship, fell apart, came back home, and I actually started Iron Tribe Fitness, and I needed a new community of friends, and I met some awesome girls, started a Bible study with them, really kind of formed my walk with the Lord, like even stronger, even greater. And I'd always had a tug at my heart to do some kind of mission work. Never was called to a certain place, but I knew that I was created for more and to do more with my life. And so
okay, let's stop right there, because you say you knew you'd always been called to some kind of mission. So did that start when you were a little girl or in high school, or can you pinpoint that?
I don't think so. I just know that the way that I think God made me, I just have a lot of love in my heart to kind of give and to give others. I'm a 2 on the Enneagram, so I feel like
the helper, for those who don't know.
And I didn't realize that until recently with Sozo that I was a 2. But looking back, I recognize that it was just a need that I needed to just basically do more. And I had so much to want to give others, and not really an outlet to be able to do that. And so I think that's where God was working on my heart before I even had a deep core relationship with God at that time.
I love that. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe that's why you and I connect so much. I remember my mom telling me when I was like, I was like 10, I was just like, I feel like I have so much love. It's exploding. I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what to do with it. Okay. So let's pause though real quick. So do you, what did you go to school for? Were you working at that time?
I was. So I went to school for marketing and public relations.
Okay.
And so I was working in North Carolina for the Wake County Economic Development.
Ooh.
I was doing research, and before that I had done marketing for commercial real estate, and then before that marketing for a sports marketing firm.
Okay.
So I had marketing background, doing some really cool, exciting things. And then when I moved back home, back to Birmingham, I started working for my dad. He owned a financial planning firm. And so he needed someone to do marketing, and it was just a perfect outlet for me and my dad to work together. He's just kind of my buddy. And so he was like, I need you to help me do marketing, help me take my firm to the next level. And I was like, absolutely. I would love to work for you.
I love that. So that happened kind of on, like you said, you had a relationship that kind of fell apart. That's when you moved back here.
Yes.
Started working for your dad, started Iron Tribe, met some people, knew you were made for more. So this season of life, it sounds like, was just like kind of like a transition, maybe a crossroads of sorts.
Very much.
Yeah.
I felt a little bit lost. I felt like, not that I didn't belong, but I just didn't know where I needed to go. And I felt like I was in just a new territory of life. I wasn't married. All my friends were married, were having babies. I didn't even have a boyfriend, no prospects. So that's why I kind of felt like now is the time to do something.
Yeah.
And then I kept asking my friends just kind of about short-term missions. I asked my friends about like just throwing things out there. I'm like, I think I'm supposed to go someplace. I think I'm supposed to go someplace for months. I don't really know what that looks like. But I had a few friends just kind of guide me and kind of just share their thoughts about it and just kind of kept talking about it. And then finally I had one friend and she's like, stop talking about it and make it happen.
I love that.
And I was like, okay. So that's when I just started doing research on short-term missions, research on long-term missions. Honestly, like I didn't care where I went. I didn't care where I was going in the world. I just knew that I had to go.
You knew that it was like kind of
Yes,
time.
it was time.
So how old were you at this point?
I was 33.
So I have to say, for being in Alabama, like you said, not being married and have no kids, which I can relate to. I moved here when I was 30, not married, no kids. That's a little bit unusual.
Very
just
much.
for call it for what it is. I mean, in Europe, when I lived in Europe, that was actually very normal. I was the normal. But over here, I mean, I know that feeling. You kind of feel like, okay, I'm not, but I love that you felt that, okay, it's time to act and move. And having a friend like that is amazing.
Yes.
So you feel like that's kind of what pushed you out to actually act.
Yes.
Okay.
very
So what
much.
did that first act look like? Like, where did you?
It was, I was online looking at organizations pretty much all over the world, like I said. And there was one organization that kind of pulled up my heart in Uganda, but had nothing to do with Sozo. I didn't even know about Sozo then. And I kept doing some research and I didn't have peace about it. It felt uncomfortable. It felt weird. I was like, I didn't know anything, what I would be doing. I was connected with another girl, so I started texting with her, and it just fell apart. And then I decided to go on a short-term mission, and I found a place in Mexico, and I said, let me just start there. Let me go there first and kind of figure things out. And I went, and I told some of the people that work there that I was looking to do more and to possibly come back. And they invited me to come back for 3 months. Or like, we could use your help. Like, come down here, pray about it. You would be living with a group of like 12 little girls living in a house, an orphanage, pretty much.
When you say little girls, how old were they?
I think they were like 7 to 12 years old. And then being like a house mom to them. And I was like, okay, I took Spanish in high school, but I'm
we
not.
We all know where that ends up for most
right.
people.
I know some Spanish to kind of get me by the mission trip to understand and kind of communicate. But I was like, I had no peace. I didn't have peace when I left there that I would be coming back to Mexico to do that mission work. And then when I returned, my same friend who was like, go out and make it happen.
Yeah.
She introduced me to somebody at Sozo. And her name was Laura, and she connected us and was like, I think you need to meet this girl. She also has done Iron Tribe. She works for an awesome organization in Uganda, Africa. I think you should talk to her and kind of see if that would be something that you would be interested in. So she connected us. It took about a couple of months for Laura and I to actually meet, since she was kind of back and forth in Uganda, had so much going on. And we finally met at a coffee shop. She told me the story about Sozo, the mission, showed me pictures. Honestly, like it had my heart. I fell in love with the mission. I fell in love with what Sozo was doing. And I was like, I think this is it. So I'm getting chills now.
I'm getting chills, actually.
Just knowing that I just had that kind of revelation. I'm like, okay, God, this is it. Like, this is where I think I'm supposed to go.
And I love that. I want to like sit here for a minute, because I think, if you're a believer and you've had a moment similar, like, and you cannot explain it and it seems ridiculous, but when you're seeing something and then just something like, I know this is right. I don't know what it looks like, but I know that I need to take the next step. So that was, I guess, early 2013.
It was probably like the summer 2013.
Okay. Okay. So
from there is when I actually went down to Sozo's old office and met
down 280.
Down 280.
Yes.
Met with Suzanne and Alan, and like I can't describe like the love that I felt like walking into that room. Like they just completely embraced me and wanted to know all about me and what I was interested in and why I wanted to come with Sozo. And honestly, I don't think I even had a great answer for them. I was just like, I just feel like I'm supposed to do this, and I'm willing to do anything and everything to make it happen. And I remember Suzanne saying, well, if you want to go with Sozo as a missionary, you have to spend time with us in the office as a quote unquote intern. And I was like, okay. And so I was working with my dad. Mm-hmm. And so I had talked to my dad and my parents about the possibility of doing this. And my dad was like, okay, well, figure out how you're going to work for me and also kind of be an intern. And so
I get your dad, like, make sure you're still working, girl.
Correct. Oh, yes. Of course he was. So the afternoons I'm going to say it was like 4 months, 4 months. I would go down to the Sozo offices in the afternoon and spend a couple hours, a few days a week, interning, helping out in the office however I was needed, trying to use my gifts, my talents to help them and to really learn about Sozo, learn about the kids. I remember specifically putting together Christmas gifts that would be going over for us to put together for all of our child sponsors. And I remember all the pictures that we were putting together, all the kids, and I was like, just wanted to know their names so bad. So when I got over there, I would be able to say their name and recognize them. So I feel like I studied that the entire time I was there because I didn't want to show up not knowing who these, 100 and something kids were. Like I wanted to have that. I felt like I had a relationship with them already. They didn't even know who I was.
They didn't know what was
But I
coming.
felt like I was like asking all the questions like, who is this? Who is this? Tell me about so-and-so. And I feel like I got connected to them before I even got over to Uganda.
That's awesome. So just to clarify, these were volunteer hours.
Correct.
So you were just kind of throwing yourself in there and giving your like time, energy.
Yes.
And it sounds like it wasn't hard. It was just kind of what you were supposed to do. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So you volunteered. So how long did you volunteer for?
It was like
intern?
4 months, I think, just a couple of days a week to get enough hours, like intern hours that was required to be a missionary with Sozo.
Okay. So that's interesting that, that you're doing the hours to prepare to be a missionary. Mm-hmm. Because when I think of the word missionary, it feels like a very like hardcore word, like, as far as commitment level goes. So you were preparing to go over there during this time. So how was were your parents, were they supportive? Because Mexico is a little closer than Africa. Spanish is a little closer language than, what's the language?
Luganda.
Than Lugandan? Yes. Am I saying that right? Yeah. It's funny. You're like, I'm not doing Spanish, but I'm going to take the Lugandan route. So how were your parents feeling? Your friends? Were they just like, whoa?
No, honestly, my parents, they were very excited. I think that they were so excited because I was so excited and happy and felt like I had a purpose and I had something in mind, and they were just like, all right, go do it. Like, we're excited for you. We're going to give you our blessing. And they could feel the joy that I was feeling. So I think that they were excited. And then I had a great group of friends, like I said, from my Bible studies who kind of rallied around me. And I still got kind of emotional thinking about like how much they supported me through like the journey of like raising money. I remember like I had a birthday. So it was the summer that I committed to going to Sozo. And so I had to start raising money because I knew that by the end of the year, I wanted to be in Uganda.
As a missionary.
As a missionary. So that's kind of when it starts. So I guess that summer of my birthday that I turned 33. And then I did my Sozo internship after that. So I had already committed to going. And I was like, this is what I'm doing. That my Bible study threw me a birthday party and they gave me an envelope. And it was full of money. Aww. And it was money that I'm like, you just don't think that you deserve it. Like, you just think that, like, why are they going to help me to do something? But they knew that, like, it was so important to me. And they knew that, like, this is something that I was called to do. And it was just like, even though it wasn't like thousands of dollars, it was probably like under $1,000, but it was something that was just, it made me realize that like I had really, really good friends that truly loved me. And so from there, like I knew my lease. Like, I feel like God's timing was so beautiful in all this because I had a lease on a car that I was able to turn in at the end of the year. I had my lease on my apartment was coming up. I didn't have to renew it.
Oh, wow.
And so for like the month of December, I got to move in back with my parents and kind of get ready, get packed, and then use this money to, to purchase all of your vaccines and medicines that you need for 3 months. And, if you needed new clothes or just anything to prepare me to do that. So I didn't have many bills that I had to pay when I went over there, which was like, huge, crazy. I mean, it's like, like I said, his timing was just perfect for me to be able to do this. And then
so let's pause. So you're interning and you're planning to go for 3 months.
Yes.
Okay. So what decided the 3 months? Like how did that
honestly, it was
timeframe?
just me. I just said
Okay.
I want to go someplace for 3 months.
Okay.
Like I didn't want to go like for another short-term mission trip. I didn't want to go on, I never been to Africa, never been to Uganda. I was like, let's do this.
Yes.
I'm like, I didn't know anything what Sozo honestly looked like there. I was like, here I go. I'm coming.
Go.
So that was kind of exciting that I'm just going over there and doing it.
But
Kinda
yet,
blind.
but yet you knew the children's names.
I knew their names. I did.
That's amazing. Okay, so you are gearing up to go. So when did you leave for that first 3 months?
I left the end of December.
Okay.
So I was there at the end of December until the end of March.
Okay.
Was my first trip.
So take us back, if you can remember, to being on the plane. I know there's multiple planes, but being on the plane going for the first time for that first 3 month stint.
So I was flying with, I guess, a group of Sozo people,
Okay.
and which is great. And I didn't know I have no clue about picking my seat. And now I'm an expert at which seats to pick. So I think I had a middle seat, which is so regrettable looking back that it was so long. But I actually sat next to Alan and got to talk to him for a lot of the plane ride. And so he got to fill me in on some more like ins and outs and, just different things about Sozo. Which is
a quick
awesome.
reminder about Alan. Alan was one of the two, Alan and Jay, that first went over to Uganda that kind of sparked the whole vision for Sozo when Suzanne jumped on board. So that's the Alan you're talking about.
Yes,
right?
correct.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
So you got to talk to him.
Got to talk to him. And then landing in Uganda, it was, it's nighttime. And so you're exhausted, you're tired. And I remember like walking out of the baggage area and just being so overwhelmed. And you're just like, where am I? What am I doing? And then the next thing you know, you're just greeted by like a couple of the kids. And of course, Dowdy was there to pick up like all the team members that were landing. And I actually, so when I went, I actually went with a team. They wanted me to go with a team to kind of experience like what a team goes through before I stayed back, which was perfect because then I had a leader. I knew what I was kind of getting into. I kind of got adjusted. And so, but just walking out in Ugandan air, it kind of hits you. It's like hot, a little bit. It was just like, where am I? This is all sinking in. And then driving to Sozo House in the dark. The roads are crazy. It's like midnight. And you're like, how are all these people on the road? All these lights, people like weaving in and out. And you're like, what am I doing? What have I done? And you're nervous. You're excited. And then the next morning you wake up and you're just like, you hear the roosters, you hear the chickens at like 5 a.m. But then all of a sudden you hear all these like little laughters and like shouts because new team members are there. And it was the kids like right outside our door.
Oh, so the kids were excited.
The kids,
that you guys were there.
they could hear, like they knew a team was coming.
Yeah.
And so like you're laying in these bunk beds. Like my bunk bed, I remember, was like right against the window that the kids were like right outside cooking. They were already cooking breakfast. I'm like, what's going on out there? But they were like, who's in there? Because you could hear them talking about like the team members. And I was like, I got to get up. I was like, I got to go out and meet these kids. And I'm like, hey, it's me. And, like I knew all their names and I would say their names and they were just like, oh my gosh, how do you know us? And, that was like the best feeling of being there and finally being able to like embrace them. And of course they came up and like wanted to hug every single one of the team members and us. And it was like just the coolest moment that you're there, you finally made it and you're in Uganda and you're like, here we go.
Yeah. That is so neat that you knew their names. I think that's really awesome. Like, there's research like to hear your name is like comforting and like, brings confidence. So that's really cool. All right. So what did you do? So I know you're with the team. So after the team left, what did you do that 3 months?
So there was another missionary that came on. And so we had a really cool experience because she was actually an old intern from the summer previously. So she had been in Uganda before and she was a lot younger than me. I mean, she had just graduated college. Her name was Regina. And I think I learned so much from her as a person and her walk with the Lord than to this day, like I just remember us spending so much quality time together as well. So like she has a very huge impact on my life from being in Uganda. But it was daily life with the kids. Like so when they were not in school yet, so back when they were still at home before they had left for school, they were still on holiday break. We would wake up, we would do chores with the kids. I mean, for hours, mopping, sweeping, washing, getting food ready, peeling potatoes, sifting through beans, really anything and everything that the kids do, like hanging laundry, doing laundry, folding laundry, ironing, like really living life alongside of them.
Yeah.
And just getting to know their stories. Like, so I would just spend a lot of time just sit like after chores were over, we just sat and we just talked. We talked about life, talked about God. We talked about just anything and everything, Bible verses, devotions. We had a lot of time just to spend together. Sorry
to interrupt. Yeah. I think it's so neat because, I mean, when I'm thinking about you talking, I think it's so true, especially in this day and age in America. Like, time is such a commodity and we rarely take time to just be and spend time, but really that's what it takes to build connection, and like, you know, stories start coming out, you feel more comfortable sharing. So I think it's really neat that, and you know, that you got to do that, because I feel like that's what breeded the relationship and you really being able to serve in a way, in a good way. So,
and I remember, so we stayed at House 2, which people remember House 2 or Ackright House. And so we would spend one week at House 2 and then 1 week at House 1, which was like the main house where the offices were, where all the hustle and bustle happened. Like you were in and out. It was like really awesome to stay there because you were always in the know. There was transportation. You could get somewhere. You could go to the grocery store if you needed to. If you had to do anything, it was like they had it all there. It was the hub of Sozo. And then at House 2, it was quiet. Like there was hours that we would just spend, like Regina and I, when the kids went back to school, like together on the porch, like reading devotions, prayer, like sitting with the mamas and the aunties and the uncles, just talking with them, getting to know them. And so we had a lot of quiet time, which was great. Then all of a sudden the kid, like you could hear the school band coming down. And we got so excited. We like would run down to the gate and fling the gates open. The kids would be running up, all excited, hugging and, you know, cheering. And so it was like your day kind of started after they got home from school. And then, but then being at House 1 was completely different because you had Aggie there. You had Dowdy. You had, like I said, you could help Aggie with daily operations. You could help her organize clothes, you know, just different things for Sozo, help with more like the admin side, which was great if they needed it. But also you did the same things at House 1, which was the chores and getting food ready and just being there. So it was like different experiences, but really cool. And one more thing. House 2, so I didn't really have internet. So when I was there, we obviously internet was back then, but I didn't have my smartphone to be able to just constantly text people, check Instagram, check Facebook. I had a laptop that you had to pay for, which was called a dongle. You put money on this like internet and you plugged it in. And there's only one little spot at House 2 where you could actually get the internet. So I remember I was like hovered over in this little corner to be able to check the internet. I didn't want to spend all my money on Wi-Fi. So like I would get online, check my emails to see if my family had written me, write them back real quick, and then shut my computer. That was my only communication with people.
Wow.
I think every once in a while, like I could figure out how to make a phone call to my parents, but that was, like I said, once in a blue moon. It did not happen.
I can imagine. I mean, just thinking of how far technology has come here in America from 2013 to now. I mean, it's crazy. So it's probably, I mean, you can tell me the same kind of growth or movement, or maybe not, slower, but you can in Africa in 2013 was not like being in America in 2013,
right?
You know, with the smartphones. Wow, that's crazy. So I'm trying to think back. So they did not have, so Sozo had not purchased the land yet. So God's house was not there. So these two houses were the only houses.
They had a House 3 as well.
A House 3. Okay. So that was a House 3 in that time. Okay. So did you ever go to House 3?
We did. We went for like worship and like praise a couple nights and to eat dinner with them. But we didn't, we spent time over there, but not as much time just because they're the older teenage boys. And so we got to spend quality time with them. but not as much.
Right. So there was kids in every house.
Yes.
Okay. So lots of quiet time, 3 months. So you really just, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, spent that first 3 months building relationships and
100%.
like connecting and doing chores, doing life, like you said, doing all the things that they do. Was there anything else, or did that come in the next stint, which we're going to talk about?
I think that came next.
Okay. So after 3 months, you were coming home, and what thoughts were you thinking at that time?
I got to go back. And when can I go back, and how quickly, and how do I make it happen? And an acquaintance of mine, who we had a mutual friend, had been on a couple of short-term missions with Sozo. And we got connected, and we both were like, we love Sozo, and we want to go back and serve like even longer. And we both kind of had a heart for women and doing more with like the community work. And Sozo had just started kind of ramping up community work, and they had always been in the village, always been like ministering to the people of a certain village called Nongolo Village. And so they had those relationships, and we both kind of recognized, hey, like, we want to do more with these women in this village that we've met on multiple occasions, going out and, you know, praying over these people. But what else can we do? And so we talked for a couple months and kind of went back and forth with Sozo, and we were like, we want to go back to Sozo long term and really work with these women in Nongolo Village. You know, can we do that? And like I said, like it took us a little bit of time to kind of figure that out, what that looked like. But so we spent about 7 months preparing for that. And then at the beginning of 2015 is when we packed up and left to go for 5 months to live over in Uganda.
So you were there for 3 months. You came home for 7 months about, and that's when we want to do more. And you decided, like you said, so you're going back. So did you have to raise more money, or what did that look like?
Yes, raise more money. I think that's when I sold off literally most everything that that had like a great value. I'm like, why do I need this? And I was really in a mindset of like very minimalist, which I feel like I am anyway. But I was like, I don't need this. I don't need this. I don't need this.
Yeah.
And so I sold so much stuff. I have no regrets about it, but I'm like looking back, I'm like, but I sold it all. And to be able to earn money and to go back to live. And like, you don't need a ton of money to live over there, but it was like, we also, you know, had to just make sure we had enough to like do what we needed to do.
Right, right. So family and friends, were they excited for you?
Yes. And no, I think that they were like, they thought maybe I kind of got it all out of my system in the 3 months. And then when I approached them about going longer, you know, of course, they were all very excited, and they all were, you know, helping me figuring things out. Like we started a blog, people shared my blog, and
that's awesome.
The journey. So,
all right. So you go back for 5 months and you want to work with the women. So you go back, and what do you do? Really honestly, like we lived at House One, and there are several other missionaries that were there alongside of me and my partner. And we did life with the kids too. So we made sure that we were just loving on our kids. Honestly, in my heart, like first and foremost, like Sozo has my heart, and like those kids were like, just had it all. So I wanted to make sure I was pouring majority of myself into our Sozo kids, because I just love them. And being back was like even a greater feeling that they knew me, and I had that relationship with them, that they were like, Auntie Amanda's back. And so it was like just exciting to first be back. And then we kind of started just going into the village 2 days a week with one of our mama translators. And we went in and invited, I think Uncle Dowdy and Aunt Aggie helped us like invite some of the women in the village just to kind of come and start like hearing the word of God. We had our translator, and like all of a sudden, like the next day it like doubled in size. The next week it doubled again. And all of a sudden we had like, you know, over 100 women coming to this like backyard like Bible. And I'm curious, when you were inviting these women, were you like, oh, did you have snacks? I mean, I'm just trying to think in terms of small groups these days.
I honestly think it was probably a draw, because we were two women from America.
Yeah.
And I think that they were...
Well, two attractive women, too, let's be honest. No, I mean, I'm just saying.
Right. I think that they're probably interested to seeing what we were doing, and they're just out of curiosity. And curiosity, that's fine, as long as it brought them there.
Right.
And we were able to share something, to share some scripture, to power prayer over them. Like, we would pray over them. Like, we started forming relationships with these women. And then also they started bringing their kids, their babies, and it was a distraction. We're like, oh my gosh, like I can't even think. There's babies crying.
Right.
Mamas are nursing, which is great. But it was like we couldn't really get through even like 30 minutes without just so much distraction. And another missionary was like, I want to come and be part of this. So she came, and then she was like, I want to take the kids. Can I?
Wait, is this a missionary with Sozo?
Yeah, she was a missionary with Sozo.
Okay.
So she was curious, wanting to come, and she's like, you know what? I'll take the kids and have a couple of our older kids, older Sozo kids, come with me and help me, like, care for these little babies while the mamas are learning. Oh my gosh, that exploded like overnight with so many kids coming because it was fun. Like, she bought jump ropes. She brought some books. She brought just like some coloring pages, because it, started out with like 5 little kids and 10 and 15. And then it just, like I said, exploded.
I mean, what a gift. I mean, honestly, and like brilliant, or God's wisdom, whatever. I mean, just being a mom myself and having young kids, like knowing when I'm trying to do something, if someone says like, oh, let me take care of your kids, like, it's just like, oh, thank you. What a
but they
blessing.
were right next door. I mean, they were right. Like, we had a tree and then like a little path, and then they were there. So it was like,
so
they
we're
weren't
not talking
far
like
away.
a building. We're talking
a
tree and a path.
Yes, a tree. And I think we moved our women's ministry like several different times because of, quote unquote, we were chased away, like, because the owner of the house was like, I'm kind of done with all these women coming. Let's move someplace else.
Because it was over 100.
Oh yeah, we definitely had many women.
That is crazy.
Yes, all ages too. We had young women. We had grandmothers, jaws who were like in their 80s, like just coming to like sit and just kind of be there, which was it was really cool.
That is so neat. Okay, so where did that go? Like, well, first of all, I mean, I know this, but I don't know if people listening know this. That was the beginning, correct me if I'm wrong, the beginning of what Kids Club is today.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
I love that.
I know.
So Kids Club, y'all, we talked about this, but that's, twice a week kids from the village come, and now they get food and they do, Bible study, Bible stories. But what I love about that is that you started working with women. I feel like so often God does this, like we have a vision, we start something, and then so many other beautiful things are spun off of that we don't expect.
Correct.
That's really cool. So you had to move several times. So, I mean, what happened? Did you just keep going with it? We
did. We just kept going with it. Every week we would have some kind of study lesson. We did it Mondays and Thursdays, and with our translator. And sometimes our translator, our one of our Sozo moms, would just take over. Because I'm like, you know what? They don't need to hear from us. They need to hear from them. They're the ones. It's their peers. It's their culture. Like, I had to take a step back, and I'm like, I'm not a preacher. I'm just kind of there to be supportive and to gather and to love and to do that. So I gave up my preaching and my that pretty early on.
Yeah.
I'm like, let me just facilitate and help and just be there. But our house mamas did a lot of it. They were the ones who really know what to say to these women and how to preach to them. And so I'm so thankful that they stepped up and they thrived in that position. They loved it.
That's
because
incredible.
It was an outlet for them to be able to share the word of God in a different way than they're normally sharing with our kids. And so they were now sharing with women, and it was exciting for them.
Like their peers,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's incredible. And then God just kind of took over.
Yes.
And that's really, really neat. Okay, so did you do that the entire 5 months?
We did the entire 5 months, and then we came home for the summer.
Okay.
And then kind of regrouped, figuring things out, and then went back to Uganda for the rest of 2015. So it was another 5 months that we were there. And we did a lot of like jewelry making with them. So we kind of introduced like a project for them to earn some money. We did that for 5 months, and that went great. And the women enjoyed it. They had a great time learning a new skill. So that was fun to see them thriving in that way, but continuing the Bible study. So we didn't stop that at all. We did not stop the Bible study at all.
We just kind of added on.
We just added on another layer. So that was good.
So is the women's part still going on today? Because I know Kids Club is, but is the women's part going on?
I believe so. I think they still meet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not as connected as I was before.
On ground there.
On ground there,
Yeah.
or with what's been going on since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so maybe we'll talk about that next time Susanna's on, what's going with that. But so 5 months, that all started. You came back for 2 months, right?
Mm-hmm.
Went back for 5 months. And what else were you doing during that? I guess was that your final 5 months?
It's my final 5 months. Yes. And then all of a sudden,
over there, I should
over
say,
there.
yeah.
Yes. And all of a sudden, I knew that Sozo was doing a choir. So they had a few missionaries over.
Yeah.
I know. First choir. We had a few missionaries that were over serving with Sozo for a couple months. Before choir tour, to get to know the kids in order for them to be part of the choir tour, for them to travel. A lot of those did not work out. They went home. They couldn't handle it. I'm not sure all the reasons why. And the next thing I know, Sozo was asking me if I would consider traveling with the choir in the U.S.
Okay, the very first Sozo choir, which we've talked about this with Susan Ron. Yeah. So the very first Sozo choir, people are dropping off like flies. I'm just summarizing I'm sure
whatever reasons,
understandable reasons, but so now it's the spotlight's on you. Can you do it?
Yes, because that was not my intentions at all. And then
Right.
they asked me, and honestly, I felt really honored. Like I felt like it was a privilege. I felt like I had earned the trust of Sozo, earned the trust of our kids, our Ugandans over there, that they thought I would be able to do a good job knowing the kids, and the kids knowing me really well in order to be part of the Sozo choir tour for the 4 months and traveling with them and being there and available for them.
Which is huge, because that very first choir, we talked about this before. How many kids were in that choir?
I think
it was a lot.
Yeah, there were a lot.
A lot more than the 12, 13 that we've had recently.
I think so.
So you're talking like 20, maybe a little under 20.
Maybe there's like 18 to 20. I can't remember.
Okay, but 18 to 20 kids.
Including Ugandans, there's probably like 24, 25 of everybody.
Okay,
possibly.
African kids, adults
Yes.
that have never been to America.
Correct.
And so, Amanda, you are their tour guide Barbie. Literally.
Yes.
Which that makes it sound fun and light, but I know that is a lot of work. I mean,
Yes.
a lot of logistics, a lot of planning. So you felt honored to do it. So you came back from Uganda.
Yes.
In December of
Just like
2015?
at the end of December of 2015. And then I think I stayed home for like 2 weeks to kind of regroup and get my, thoughts together, repack. And then I hit the road with the choir as a chaperone.
Okay.
Yeah, again, I didn't know what to expect.
So were you the only American?
No, I was not. There was one other girl who was going to be a chaperone along with us. So we had 2 Americans and then I think a few of the Ugandan adults with us.
Okay. So quick overview of the choir tour. You're hitting literally dozens plural of cities performing. You have their uniforms that they're performing in. You're having to feed people multiple times a day.
Right. So staying in host homes. So we stayed in so many host homes. So I got to know a lot of families, which is really cool. But,
yeah.
I think honestly, looking back, living on choir tour was a lot harder than living in Uganda.
I can see that.
Because I was living out of a suitcase and I was
Yeah.
bouncing from house to house and trying to navigate life with, I would be responsible for 3 or 4 of the girls under my care in a different city. And so trying to navigate the U.S. with them, answering questions, navigating host homes, navigating so many different personalities. I'm at the mercy of what are we eating? We're eating fried chicken and French fries for dinner for 4 months. I didn't have a green salad.
Right.
At all.
Yeah.
Because it was wherever we went, it was, or whatever the kids wanted to eat, it's I ate that because I didn't want to be rude and say, oh, I want a salad, please.
Right.
So that was harder, that I was kind of out of control of where we were going, what we were doing. But honestly, looking back, it was the most amazing experience.
Yeah.
I still have hilarious memories, sad memories, exciting memories and like joyful memories from being a chaperone on choir tour.
Yes. I mean, my limited experience with the last choir that was here, it is intense. I mean, you can't know it until you're kind of in it. So I can't even imagine being one of the main ones in charge, navigating cities you're not necessarily familiar with, different homes. So you went on this 4-month choir tour, very difficult, but obviously fulfilling and amazing. So what happened after that?
Sozo asked me if I would lead our interns in Uganda. The girl that was originally supposed to do it got pregnant. She couldn't go over there. And I said, take me back. I'm
Yes.
like, I will do anything and everything. I'm ready to go. Again, I didn't have like a actual real job. So like doing the consulting work with my dad, I could freely go, and he gave me his blessing. And I was like, this is the perfect time. Like I said, I had no real responsibility at home.
Yeah.
I was like, take me back. I'm going to go back and serve and do. And that was a really awesome experience to be with those interns and like just living life with them.
Yeah.
And leading them for those few months. It was really cool.
So they were interns from the U.S.?
Yes.
Okay.
They're all college,
Awesome.
all college kids.
Okay.
Yes.
And then you love that. So why did you stay? What happened right after that?
I stayed, and then the girl who was doing all the marketing was getting married and moving to Minnesota. And so they asked if I was interested in taking on that job position at Sozo full time.
In the U.S.?
In the U.S.
Okay.
So, I mean, I prayed about it. I kind of had a couple of weeks in Uganda to think about, like, is this what I want to do, or do I want to, keep just coming back as like missionary work? What was I really called to do? And ultimately, I said yes.
That's amazing. So, but which also was a big move from being in Uganda so much of the time to being, on the U.S. side. But I mean, God's timing, like you said from the beginning, was perfect, because that, was the next thing that led you to getting married, meeting your husband.
Yes.
I guess. Yes. So when did you meet Neil?
2018.
2018. Okay. So it was 2 years after you started.
Yes. And I had been able to go back to Uganda like several times, like a few times a year, which continued those relationships with the kids and just being there and doing my job for Sozo, but being in Uganda in a different way now, like being staff and having like just different responsibilities and actually having to get materials and footage and stories, and which was exciting because it's like I had all that stuff before. But now it's like I had a purpose when I went over there. It's like it's just a different purpose.
Yeah, well, it's almost like you're getting to see both sides of it, because it takes what's happening over here to be able to do what's happening over there.
Yes.
And now you're kind of getting like really in the trenches with that, because you'd been in the trenches in Uganda.
Yes.
So what would you say? I mean, I just think it's so cool that you've been with Sozo, not since the beginning, but almost. And you've been a part of seeing it grow, seeing God bring more kids into Sozo's care, bring the land, bring all the things that have happened. Like, what has been, would you say, your biggest takeaway just in the Sozo journey in your life? That's a very deep question. I know.
It's like a lot. I honestly think like just my relationships with the kids and seeing them grow. And a lot of people ask me, they're like, how do you see the kids? Like as like your own kids, whatever. And I'm like, no, it's kind of like your niece and nephews. Like they are part of your family. They're not mine, but I love them so much. And seeing them grow and to thrive and to like become leaders, like which is Sozo's mission. Yeah. Like to really see it unfold and to see them from being a little girl into now like becoming a young woman and being in university, who I never thought even possible would be able to get to university. Yeah. Think those kind of stories, or stories of ones that like I remember like just helping with homework and just sitting on the floor and them crying because they can't do their homework, and me being like, I don't know how to help, but I'm here. And then now seeing them like do so well in school, that really gets me. And then of course I sponsor a boy named Ambrose.
Yes,
and,
that was my next. Like
he like has gone from being a stubborn young man from a horrific background into like exceeding and excelling in an internship. And even though I haven't been over there in several years because of exciting life stuff, I still feel really connected to him. Like Ron will always tell me, like how proud I should be of him and like what he's been doing. And like to hear that is like super cool, because he was such quote unquote like a troublemaker. And to know, like, to hear the stories of like not me influencing him, but not me being like, but I'm a part of his life.
Right.
And to have like just a little bit of like hope for him through like a sponsorship is really cool, because like I feel like I have done something like for him, and he is always like, thank you for always praying for me and never giving up on me and always like having my back. And of course I would, get angry at him, because I'm like, why are you doing this? Why are you being so stubborn? And, do what you're supposed to do. But that, I think that is like something that will always like be a special part of my life, knowing that I played a little bit of a role of just being like there for somebody.
Absolutely. And just loving him.
Yeah.
So how old is Ambrose now?
He's in his 20s. And so he's in university, has an internship, and he's doing great.
That's incredible. How old was he when you met him? Became a sponsor?
I want to say it was right. He was at house too. So I got pretty familiar with him. And I guess it was 2015 is when I started sponsoring him.
So maybe he was like 10, 12?
Probably 13, maybe around then.
So imagine a 12, 13-year-old boy. Like, I mean, most of us have a context of that's, it's a hard time.
Right.
For
very,
anybody.
very hard. And he didn't have family. Like his mom had, his dad had abandoned him. His mom had run away to South Sudan, never saw her, lived with his grandmother. Grandmother ended up passing away. So he really didn't have family. And not that he's, considers me family, but he does.
Yeah.
Just loving him throughout his life and through the ups and downs for him, and of course being a world away. I mean,
but you've been a constant in his life for 11 years, and I feel like it's just an example of God using you to be present like God is present in his life.
Yes.
And I love that that's your answer, because I feel like that is what the heart of Sozo is. That is the mission. That is the why. It's the kids. It's the kids that have been lost somehow, have been abandoned. And, I feel like that is truly the heart of the mission. And so it's really neat. And what a gift that you've been able to kind of be along for, the ride or the growth or, all that's happened with Sozo over the last 11 years. And now still working on this side in the trenches to make sure that, that kids are still being taken care of, like in very tangible ways, medical care, food, cost of living, all that stuff. So it's just really neat. And Amanda really does live out what she says, like in the day to day. And it really is an honor to work with you. And I want to end this by saying, and of course, if you have questions for Amanda, you can, I don't know where people, our Instagram, whatever, but reach out, because it really is an incredible story. And just if you want to get involved with Sozo and even sponsor a child or be able to kind of get a glimpse of what a difference it's making, how God is using, our time and our money to serve these kids that don't have that on the other side of the world. But I love what Ron said about Amanda.
Oh gosh, don't make me cry.
What Ron said about Amanda when we were talking about doing this podcast, he said, what I really saw in Amanda is that she was teaching them without having to say anything. So I think that our actions speak louder than our words, and it's a beautiful story. And thank you for being willing to share it.
Absolutely. Today. Take me back to Uganda, people.
Well, you have a plan, right? Or you're trying.
I hope so.
You're working on it.
I'm working on it.
Having a 6-month-old, I get it. I mean, that takes a little more planning than when you're not married and have no kids. All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody, for the rest of the story, and we'll see you next time.